Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to Artful Life Summer Playshops. For those couple of you guys joining for the first time, I am BeiBei Song, founder of Essinova, interdisciplinary creativity agency or academy, applying art thinking and neuroscience to human development, leadership, and innovation. And here with me is my partner on the project, Anu Sanghvi, a dear friend from Stanford Business School. We are halfway through our 8-week program for the season. In the past 4 sessions, we explored our inner self and our relationship with intimate others through visual languages and poetry. Today, we look into our interaction with the outer world. The turn of the 20th century was an unsettling time, when the Industrial Revolution changed society in profound ways. Partly due to the advent of photography, artists had to find new ways to depict the world and tell their stories, as they could no longer compete with the camera for realism, which had dominated art since the Renaissance. Impressionism experimented with light and hurried brushstrokes to capture fleeting feelings. Expressionism used bold colors and distorted subjects to channel extreme emotions. Be it the spontaneity of an impressionism or the intensity of expressionism, both were responses to the dehumanizing effects of industrialization. Both illustrated new anxieties and isolation in modern urban life. Well, doesn't this sound familiar for our current situation? For the next hour or so, we'll play with our own present-day form of expressionism using, well, guess what? Photography. And leading our session today is someone both Anu and I have known for more than 20 years since our MBA days together. But unbeknownst to us, alongside a successful career in strategy and corporate development, Daniel also became an artist. And since our last reunion together, he's been surprising us with one piece of stunning artwork after another. And we are reunited here today in a very different context. Whether you share my Taoist belief that the mind creates reality as much as the other way around, and now is the historical moment when the mind, we need to use our mind to create new realities, Daniel's art demonstrates that the world can be seen in more than one way, and beauty can emerge from the overlooked. If nothing else, we will learn to discover and celebrate the hidden beauty in our immediate world, in and around our homes. So with that, Anu will take us to meet our artist and get our class started.
Thank you, BeiBei. That's wonderful. And you always bring so much wisdom and perspective to our play shop. So thank you for leading us off and keeping us up every week. I am beyond delighted to reintroduce our dear friend, Daniel. As BeiBei said, we met in business school. My husband's also on the call, and he also was a classmate. So we have 4 representatives from our business school class of Stanford.
Joe Cardinal.
Woo! Long time ago. Back then, we all looked at each other and we were the business school types, right? Going into make a big dent in corporate America and do great things and make a lot of money and all that good stuff. And fast forward 23 years, and I'm basically privileged and honored to introduce Daniel as an artist, a digital artist and an abstract photographer. If you look at the bottom of my screen here, this is one of the pieces that he's done. And it's so fascinating for me to observe humans going through this pivot and this transformation in life. And so I want to kick off my artist Q&A with you, Daniel, by just having you tell us about your journey. So take us back to, I know you're retired now, which is wonderful, but take us back to your past and your corporate days, your executive days after business school, and the journey that you went through to get you to where you are today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the lovely introductions, BeiBei and Anu. I hope I can live up to all that praise. So yes, I graduated in business school in 1997 and embarked on a 20+ year career in management consulting, strategy, and corporate development. I tried everything pretty much in corporate America, from early stage startups to Fortune 500 behemoths and everything in between. And I love the work for the most part, not always, but it's very analytical. As a guy who spent a lot of time in front of PowerPoint and Excel, and I wanted to sort of access the more artistic, emotional side of myself. And I have an origin story for my art, believe it or not. Sound like a good Marvel character.
Outside.
I was taking a walk in my neighborhood one day about 15 years ago in Denver, Colorado, and noticed a really interesting rock next to the sidewalk. So on a total lark, I just took a photo of it. And when I got back home, I was playing with Photoshop because I had young children at the time. So I was always taking photos of the kids and like cropping them and making sure that they look nice. So I figured, what can I do with this picture of a rock? And well, 15 years later, I'm still taking pictures of interesting rocks and playing with them. So there you go.
Wonderful. And as you think about the artist journey that you've been on, what has been one of the most interesting lessons or surprises that you've picked up along the way?
So I've learned that there's beauty everywhere. If there's one philosophy I'd like to share today, is you can find beauty in the most mundane, the most ordinary of situations. You know, sort of the little story I would tell is, when most folks go to the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls or the Eiffel Tower, they'll probably take a grand scenic view, right? I do the same thing. But then I'd probably say 5 or 10 minutes at the end and find that interesting rock on the side of the parking lot of the Grand Canyon and take a picture of that. So for those days when we don't have those magnificent views, I would encourage folks to find beauty in the everyday.
Wonderful. Great. Well, there's, I think, a lot more questions I could ask you, Daniel, but there's so much interest in this topic and today's session. I feel like we should just jump right in with you. And as questions come up as we go through the next hour or so, let's bubble those up through chat, and we'll stop along the way and pick up any and all questions that you have. But I'm so delighted and honored to hand the mic over to you, and really looking forward to this play shop.
Well, thank you so much, Anu. I am absolutely delighted you're here to share my passion for seeing the overlooked through abstract photography. Okay, friends, I am a man on a mission today. I have 5 things I want to accomplish. Number 1, as I alluded to earlier, I would love to inspire everyone here today to see the everyday world just a little bit differently, and to be open to finding beauty in the most unlikely of places. Whether you're going to the grocery store or taking a walk around the neighborhood or cleaning out your garage, I'd absolutely love for you to find beauty in those everyday mundane situations. Number 2, I'd like to share my passion for abstract photography and dispel a few common myths about it. I think it's a really misunderstood art form. Number 3, let's have some fun today. There's been a lot of not fun things going on in the world, so I would encourage everyone to have a spirit of playfulness and energy and creativity today. Just enjoy being creative in a medium that may be brand new to you. I'd like to give everyone a chance to leave today's session with at least one masterpiece. My fantasy is at least one person will create something they like so much they want it printed on canvas or frame it nicely and hang it on a wall. I assure you that's absolutely possible, and love to see that happen. And number 5, and most importantly, I want to prove Madonna right. That's supposed to elicit a laugh. I don't know, tough audience. Okay, so more on Madonna later. Let's talk about what is abstract photography. You know, I think the members of the photography club probably very familiar with it, but for a lot of other folks, it may be kind of a abstract concept. So my joke is that if you gather 10 abstract photographers in a room and ask for a definition, you'll come away with 32 different answers. But here's what I came up with after doing this for 15 years. So if you think about traditional or representational photography, the focus is on the entire object or the entire scene. When you go to the Grand Canyon, you take a picture of the Grand Canyon. If you see a beautiful sailboat on a lake, you take a picture of the sailboat. Abstract photography is slightly different because it focuses not on that entire object or scene, but on its constituent elements. So it can be a detail of the object. Maybe there's an interesting pattern or lines and forms and textures, shapes, colors, even a sense of rhythm or motion. So it's abstracting, it's taking away the context of the entire object and focusing in on specific elements. So I tried to boil down my philosophy from working on this for the last 15 years into one sentence, and this is what I came up with. Abstract photos aim to express ideas and emotions and to trigger the viewer's imagination through a sense of mystery. So I think we'll come back to those ideas a little later on. So I know that all that may sound kind of academic, maybe a little bit abstract, so to speak, pun intended. So let me give you a very simple, concrete example of representational versus abstract photography. So I'm a big zoo person. I love the Denver Zoo. I try to go there on a regular basis. And I took 2 photos of a lioness when I was there back a few months ago. I know this is a really hard question, but which one is representational and which one is abstract here? When you think of a picture of a lioness, this proud, majestic creature, what comes to my mind, at least, is something like on the left. So she's hanging out in her enclosure. She's got a couple, newborn cubs that are not in the frame. She's taking a break, keeping a watchful eye over them. And thankfully, she was very close by to where I was standing, so I was able to get a great, photo of her hanging out, keeping an eye on her cubs. However, the abstract photographer part of my brain lit up and says, hey, look at her fur. There's some beautiful color variations, and look at the shadows and highlights and interesting texture of that fur. So I took an extreme close-up, thankfully with a little bit of plexiglass between me and the lioness, so not quite that crazy, but I was able to get up very close. And what you're seeing on the right is a close-up photo of her fur with some of the colors amplified. So they're both completely legitimate, photos of a lioness. One of them is recognizable. You see the whole context, that's a lion. On the right is a very abstracted view. All right, so with that example out of the way, let's get back to Madonna. So for those of you who are fans of Madonna, you know that Vogue is one of her most popular songs over the years, and there's this repeated line, beauty's where you find it. And that's become one of my artistic mottos. So when we did the dress rehearsal, I sang the entire song. Anu and BeiBei begged me not to do that live, so I have something even better than me singing, which is pretty scary. Let's actually hear from Madonna herself.
Beauty's where you find it. Beauty's where you find it.
So anyways, that's really become my philosophy, how you can, see the overlooked and find beauty in the most odd places. So let me tell you 3 quick stories about finding beauty in the most unlikely of places. So number 1 is, a few weeks back, I took a walk around the local neighborhood park and was coming back, and I crossed some road construction. So in this case, the road construction crew had grinded off the top layer of asphalt and left these kind of deep ruts, grooves in the substrate. And, they would come back in a day or 2 later and put the new asphalt over it. As I was walking across this, most people think that's pretty ugly. Like, what's interesting about that? There's a photo of that road on the left there. It's a close-up. But I was, me being me, I figured, hey, that's actually kind of interesting. It's got some interesting grooves and lines there. If you look very carefully, there's some minerals that give it a little blue tint in some places, a little orange or red tint in others. So looking somewhat like a crazy person, I took out my phone, staying in the middle of the road, dodging cars, taking close-up pictures of the road. So I'm not sure I recommend doing that, but abstract photographers can be a little odd that way because they see a road under construction and see some potential there. If you look at the image on the right, this is what it turned into, believe it or not. So I cropped it very closely. You can see some of the white lines are equivalent to the grooves there you see on the left. But I amplified the colors and ended up with something that I don't know if it's great art or not, but it's certainly a lot of fun. All right, that's story number one. Story number two is a few weeks back, my wife and I had the opportunity to have a very nice brunch in Boulder, Colorado. And it's one of those leisurely affairs where you have, 6 cups of coffee and sit there for 2 hours. And being a middle-aged guy, well, the inevitable happened and I needed to stand in line for the restroom. Given the pandemic, there was a specific place where you're supposed to stand while you're waiting, which is shown on the photo on the left. And once again, I was like, hey, I have a minute or two, let's look around. I noticed the interesting faux finished wall around the sink, and what gave it some extra character was it's an older restaurant, so there were scratches and scuffs and just probably smoke and whatever residue from the kitchen that was nearby. I thought, hey, that's a lot of character. I wonder if I can do anything with that. So once again, looking somewhat like a crazy person, I get out my phone, take a whole bunch of close-up pictures of that wall. And then a few days later, when I had the chance, I played around with them, probably went through 12 or 15 iterations, could not get something right. But then I stumbled upon the image that I show on the right, which is a portrait, a vertical orientation, and it has a very rigid, very strict composition with all the hot tones, the oranges and yellows, mostly in the lower half, and the icy blues and grays and such on the upper half. And pleasure center of my brain lit up and says, hey, it's fire and ice. So I went from a scuffed, nicked wall by a sink in a restaurant to having, to me, a metaphor for fire and ice. All right, story number three. So my beautiful wife and I recently celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. This is actually important to the story. And as good Coloradans, we took a hike. By my wife's suggestion, it was a 5-hour hike. It was amazing. So we're up in the foothills of the Rockies. And if you've ever been out to Colorado, you know that, it's a high desert climate. So there's not a lot of vegetation ordinarily. So you can see on the photo on the left that there's a trail, some interesting rock formations, some beautiful pine trees, but beyond the earth tones and the green of the trees, not a whole lot of color. However, I did see a couple of interesting rocks with some lichen growing on them. And I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can do anything with that. So I took a few close-up photos, and a few days later when I had some time, I thought, what could I do with this? Well, this hike was taken on our wedding anniversary, and for context, this is important. We got married in wine country in Northern California, and it was an outdoor wedding, so it was held in a garden. So I wanted to somehow tie in those themes of wine country and garden with our anniversary hike. So I thought, well, what colors really represent wine country? And of course, obvious choice as well. Think about a cluster of grapes. Think about a vineyard. Well, you have all the beautiful greens of the leaves. Then you have the burgundies and the violets and the purples of the grapes themselves. So I fiddled with the colors, and believe it or not, the image on the right came from, I don't know if it's the exact rock, but if you look at one of those rocks on the left, it came from a rock that looked just like that. Okay, so now that we've had our story time, hopefully haven't put folks to sleep with their blankies and their milk, we're gonna play something a little bit more interactive and do some word association. So I'm gonna flip through 5 pictures. They're labeled A, B, C, D, and E. And for each one, I think it would be great if folks could just look at it and just go in the chat box, type the first word, maybe a 2-word phrase that comes to mind. So it can be anything. No right or wrong answers, just curious what folks come up with. Okay, so here we go.
So the words that are coming in are ice cube, Iceland, water beauty, ocean, frost, mountains, aqua, aurora borealis, wheat, rain on water, abominable snowman,
That's a good one.
water running down a shower screen, glass box shower, My son is saying ocean.
Nice.
And
All
I'm gonna add blue gin.
Ah, well, that's fantastic. A wide range of interpretations. So for the next one, let's do the same thing.
So I'm going to start reading those out. So galaxy, splash, shooting comets, fall, fireworks, firework, king of limbs, firework, feathers, Broadway, spray of flowers, comets, glaze, outburst, gems, skin condition, rain of light, peacock.
When your skin is that color blue, boy, it's time to see the doctor, I think. Oh, wonderful.
See the alien doctor.
Those are some wonderful interpretations. So let me throw out a little challenge, a little new wrinkle to this game. So for the next couple, don't give a noun as to what the thing is or what it appears to be to you. Why don't you throw out a feeling or emotion or a memory or something along those lines, something that's not saying that looks like a blank, more of like, it makes me feel like blank. Okay, let's try that.
The words coming in are pain, sad, mad, joyful, passion, stressful, abandoned, passion, a tree's death, lust.
That's fascinating. I'm really intrigued by that because we've got everything from joyful to the death of a tree to sad and anxious. That's a wide range. Fascinating.
A few more, Daniel. After lust, distressed, fashion sense, fiery, and then fire again.
Fascinating. Well, I'm absolutely thrilled. I thought when we would do this, like 3 people would answer and like everyone else would be scratching their head saying, I don't get it, Daniel. But that's amazing. Thank you so much. To me, this is amazing. So once more, I'll show another one. And once again, maybe more of the, it makes me feel blank.
Surprise, autumn, exploration, joyful, happy, beach, openness, swirling, possibility, impressionistic, celebrated, playful, universe, wandering, euphoria, happy, universe.
Wow, amazing. All right, we have one more to go.
Dreaming, a few more coming in, dreaming, and then I'll add connected.
Oh, wow. Some of you guys are philosophers, like connected, and there's a, wow, that's fascinating. Okay, one more.
So we're focusing on feelings, right? What this makes us feel.
Go crazy with this one, whatever you want.
Whatever we want, okay. Divided, awesomeness, dripping, awe, melting, free, cold and wet, falling, leaking light, calm, icicles, wandering into the unknown, lightning, water, 5 senses, discovery, hopeful, comet.
Well, thank you so much, folks. That's absolutely amazing because when I create these, I often have a theme or emotion I'm trying to convey. It's just fascinating to hear people come up with, in some cases, exactly what I was feeling, and in many other cases, something different, a whole different way of looking at it. So, well, thank you so much.
Yep. Two more, Daniel, just to make sure everyone's heard. Scaly, light at the end of the tunnel, and I'll add lifted.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Those are some great thoughts. I'm really hoping when we get the recording of the video, I'll go back over those in more detail. Those are some fantastic thoughts, so I appreciate that. So after playing that game with the 5 images, I think we've pretty much dispelled the 4 myths I want to touch on briefly. The first myth is that abstract photos can inspire the intellect, but not the emotions. Just having gone through that for the last 5 minutes, did you hear all the emotional language people were using? Absolutely amazing. So I always sort of thought of abstractions as being very cold and sterile. They made, you know, appeal to the logical part of my brain, but they didn't really strike my emotions. But, you know, based on this exercise, we see that's not the case. Myth number 2, abstract images can't tell a story or be metaphorical. We've heard some wonderful metaphors, either for objects or for feelings, or even like, you know, philosophical concepts like connectedness. Number 3, when I first got into abstractions, I kind of thought, well, just sort of blobs on the screen, like what does it really matter what goes where? But I've learned that, you know, symmetry and composition is very important. Like I talked about the balance between the hot and the cold colors in fire and ice, for example. And in that last one, sort of that ray of light in the center, a very symmetrical composition was important to getting my idea across. And the 4th myth is you need to start with a beautiful photo. Like, I don't think too many people would think the picture of that road under construction was beautiful when it started. And I don't know if it was beautiful when it ended or not, but it was certainly a lot more interesting. Okay, so now let's get to the really fun part of this, where we make our own images. So let me give you the big picture first, so to speak, and then we'll give you some specific prompts to help us get started. So there's a 2-step process here. We want to spend about 20 minutes taking some abstract photos. And at, you know, towards the end of that, when you have a few minutes left, I'd ask that you select 1 or 2 of your favorites and upload those to the Artful Life Facebook page. As we sent in our introductory email, it works really best if you have one device that's running Zoom, just leave that running. Go take your phone if it has a camera on it and use that to take some photos. And, you know, when you have a few minutes left, upload 1 or 2 of those to the Facebook page. Then we'll have some time for group discussion about those. And then we'll move on to the second step, which is editing 1 or 2 of your favorite photos. I can give you some prompts, get you started there. You don't need any special software. Whatever is loaded in your phone's camera software, it's just fine. It doesn't have to be very fancy. And once again, at the end of that, if you have an image that you like, upload it to the Artful Life Facebook page, and we can discuss, you know, people's final images and then wrap up. So if you are confident and know where you're going for taking some photos, feel free to step out now. Just, you know, come back in 20 minutes, or maybe more like 16 or 17 minutes, and then spend a few minutes uploading to Facebook. If you want some additional prompts, I can spend the next 2 minutes or so giving you a few things to get started with. One is just everyday objects around your house, your backyard, your garage, your basement, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In fact, I think it's more fun if you get the most random thing you can think of. So please don't take a picture of your dog. Your dog is cute, I'm sure. If you want to take a picture, get a super close up of the dog's ear. Now that could be fun. So don't concentrate on the whole object. Concentrate on interesting design elements. We talked a little bit earlier about lines and textures and forms and colors and all that. Look for those things. A good way to achieve that is to go for extreme close-ups or offbeat angles. As humans, we often have the idea that, you know, we're standing there, we take the photo kind of like, you know, 5 to 6 feet above the ground, but get on your hands and knees or crawl underneath something. Just find different ways of seeing an object differently than you normally would. Look for interesting plays of light with shadows and reflections. I personally really like what I call natural filters. That means taking a picture through something else. So let's say it's a rainy day at your house and you've got some rain streaked windows. We'll take a photo through that. You get some interesting natural distortions that way. And finally, experiment, experiment, experiment. Digital photography is free. Take 20, take 30. You're looking for one or two that you like, that's fun, you can upload to Facebook. But no harm in taking a bunch. You'd be surprised that with me, for every finished piece of artwork, I probably have literally, I don't know, 50 or so images that I don't use because they just didn't work out. So, okay. I will be here for chat or live questions on Zoom. Otherwise, have some fun. Oh, wow. Look at Allison, you go. Look at all those. Those are fantastic. Wow. Anu. Oh, I love those. Your son's very talented. He's got an eye for this. Thank you so much. I could literally do this for the next 4 hours because just some amazing images there. Thank you so much for sharing, folks. I wish we had another hour to go through all these. It's just fascinating to me.
We'll discuss in the community, like in Facebook later.
Yes, please do. Absolutely. So on to step 2. Next, we're going to have about 15 minutes to take one or two of your favorite photos from the ones you just taken. Although, frankly, many of those are just magnificent the way they are. They don't need any help at all. But in some cases, I myself find a lot of value in playing around with them afterwards. Just to give you a few quick prompts about things you can do. And once again, these are all available right on your phone. And if you have more sophisticated software, so much the better. But cropping, start with your idea, the emotion you're trying to convey. If anything gets in the way and just distracts from that, just crop it out. Orientation, try something upside down, try it to the left or right. Hue and saturation, aka colors and intensity. This is my personal favorite thing. If you go back to the example of the road under construction, start out being gray with little tiny hints of color, and I just cranked that. All the regular photography stuff is worth playing with: brightness, highlights, shadows, and contrast. Filters, most iPhone, Android phones all have sorts of built-in filters, as well as many social media applications. Personally, I'm not a fan of filters very much because I like to have exact control and not just let some algorithm do something. But you can try that as well. So, okay, let's take about 10 minutes or so, 11 minutes, maybe till 11:15 to try some editing. If you're not really interested in the editing part, feel free to step out and take a few more photos. And, when you're happy with the final result, upload it onto the Facebook page and we'll do some more discussion. If you're able to make a copy of the photo, I don't know if this is possible or not, depending on your phone, but it'd be great to post the original and then the edited version next to it when you upload it. And if it's not possible, just upload the final image because we can match them up. Much to everyone who shared. It's a shame we don't have more time to go through everybody's. I just wanted to pull out a few representative examples. We can certainly keep the conversation going on Facebook. I'd love to hear folks comment, maybe put comments below some of the pictures if you'd like to share what caught your eye, what kind of manipulations did you do, what kind of emotion it may have evoked. I am absolutely thrilled with how today has gone, just some absolutely wonderful work done. And I've made this joke like 4 times, but given how wonderful these images are, I think I'm gonna have some serious competition going forward. So hey, want to open the floor up to any final questions or comments?
Thank you, Daniel. This was really fun.
Yeah, I love your perspective. I love your angle, sort of looking at things that are ordinary and they've suddenly become extraordinary, different. I love it.
Wonderful.
Oh, I find it so exciting. Really, really. Ooh.
It was just really an amazing presentation, very engrossing, very engaging. And not just that each person got to be drawn into their own art, but also to see what everybody else came up with. I think it's exactly what the play shop's supposed to be about. Great job.
Well said. Well said.
Well, my dear desire is I hope that I've been giving you all a little bit of a prompt, and next time you're waiting in line at the grocery store or taking a walk through your neighborhood, or I don't know, changing the oil in your car or whatever, some less than glamorous task, to use that as an opportunity to snap a few photos, and when you have a few minutes, play with them and see what you come up with. Absolutely encourage folks to continue to post new images as they come up on the Facebook site. Love to see folks' commentary. I so wish we have, another half hour just to go through some of these images. They're just so compelling. Okay, Anu or BeiBei, any final thoughts?
I loved it. I'm going to pass it over to BeiBei, but I had an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Daniel. This was incredible. We might have some new wall pieces in our house.
Fantastic. The one in the lantern, I mean, you got to go with that one, the close-up. You got to hang that somewhere.
Yeah, that one and the piano keys. I think those two.
Nice.
Yeah, we have so many hangable pieces. I'm just totally humbled at what people have created. Either that they had their own 15-year history hidden somewhere, or you just inspired everyone so well. So in either case, that was just fantastic. Another awesome session of creating together. So thank you so much, Daniel.
No, my pleasure. I enjoyed every second of it.
Thank you very much. It was great, that.
Wonderful. Everybody, hope to see you continue, keep your posting and telling us about your artworks in the Facebook community, and hope to see you again in the play shops as well. Next time we will again work with something in our home. We'll be playing with food, cooking, and finding beauty in that as well.
Great.
All right, everybody, loved seeing you again as usual.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Daniel.
BeiBei.
Thank you,
Thank you.
BeiBei. Bye,
Bye-bye.
BeiBei.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, BeiBei.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Daniel.